Welcome to Pioneers in Payments, where payments experts share their insights. Now, here's our host, Donna Blum.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Pioneers in Payments. I'm your host, Donna Blum, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Joe Frisz from Paytroniks. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, it's great to be here.
So glad you could join us today. So we're going to be talking today about all that's happening, or at least some of the things that are happening in the payments industry. But before we get started, would you mind sharing a little bit with our audience about who you are, your background in payments, and the work that you do at Paytroniks?
I'm Joe Frisz, CEO of Paytroniks. I've been in the industry for over 25 years, and my company focuses on integrating the latest technology and innovations into the payment space. Very quickly, 1 minute summary. I've been in payments for about 25 years now, over 25 years. And I started in a small independent ISO operation in Miami decades ago. And after doing stints in Visa, American Express, and JPMorgan last year, I decided to open my own company, which is Paytroniks. And just very quickly, what got me started and what's kept me in this industry is just the interaction that happens at the point of sale. Whenever a transaction happens, since I saw that back in 1999, when you had all these vendors converging in that point of interaction, I was hooked. And you can imagine how that point of interaction has evolved to today in a much more complex world. So that is why I'm here talking to you as CEO of Paytroniks.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And obviously, you've worked for some industry leading organizations and have a wealth of experience to share with us. So because we have a limited amount of time, we're sort of narrowing it down. And the first thing I want to ask you is, what do you perceive the top trend to be in the payments industry today?
So I'm not going to cop out by saying AI. I want to talk a little bit beyond AI. AI is around us, not just in payments, but with ChatGPT and so forth. So that is really a given. But beyond AI integration, I think the three trends that I'm seeing is number one, an increasing move to real-time payments. Whereas before that was seen as an enhancement for the current payments service offering, now I'm seeing that as a must-have. Customers are really expecting to have in your menu of services real-time payments. Obviously, a real-time payment is more risky than a payment that takes 1, 2, or 3 days to process. But regardless, that is something that you have to have in the menu for your clients. I also think that within that scope, the real-time payments also apply to cross-border instant settlements. So no matter where the transaction is coming from, inside or outside of the United States, we're seeing an increased demand for that type of services, especially for treasury payments, corp to corp, bank to bank payments, and all of the major cross-border settlement companies, SWIFT and so forth, have moved or are moving into that direction. And then lastly, I think the rollout of what I would call government or quasi-government solutions at a national scale, I think is very important. So we've seen FedNow roll out in the United States. I think integrating into that solution is key. In Mexico, you have a government initiative called SPEI, which is designed specifically to displace cash out of that country, and that is a national rollout. And then in Brazil, there's a private-public partnership called PIC, which is also instant payments, and it's also another push to displace cash within that economy. So summing it up, real-time payments, cross-border instant settlements, and integrating into those national rollouts that I just mentioned.
That's great. Yeah, it does seem like other countries, their governments seem to be a little bit more open um, to setting the future trajectory of payments and removing certain things. You know, there are some countries, for example, that you said have this initiative to move away from cash, or maybe they don't do checks anymore. In the United States, we really haven't seen too much of that. I think the biggest thing we've seen recently is just the US government saying that they're not going to pay using checks anymore. But we don't tend to rule anything out.
Well, the United States historically has been a laggard in adoption of payment innovation. Other countries, actually Brazil is one of them. You have a lot of innovation in Japan and Korea, and some countries in Europe. Sweden was one of the first countries to go cashless, which actually to me represents an opportunity for this market constantly. You can look at what's occurring in those other innovative countries and start applying, if not all, but some of those best practices that you see in those countries. One of the drawbacks is that because the U.S. is a laggard, fraud tends to migrate to those countries where there's less innovation. So that means that companies in the United States have to pay close special attention to the latest trends in fraud as the neighboring countries, you can look at it that way, or neighboring markets innovate more and more. So that is the little drawback that you have in the United States.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I was just thinking about security in general. Like if your home is, you've got a security system and you've got deadbolts on all your doors and you've got cameras and you name it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The perpetrators, they're going to go to an easier target, right? So
that is an excellent analogy. So yes, you hit the nail on the head with that one.
and we don't want to be easy targets here in the US, so we've
Right.
got some catching up to do.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of our audience is they're the representatives of companies that actually process payments, and a lot of the individuals watching may have something to do with operations. So with all that's happening in the industry, the trends that you just mentioned, there's obviously opportunities and challenges. What would you say is the greatest opportunity for payment organizations today?
So again, it's kind of the two sides of the same coin, right? So the challenge that I'm seeing is that because you have an increasing number of payment rails, payment methods, payment solutions, you also have innovation happening in the space. Even though the U.S. is a laggard in payments, the industry itself is always at the forefront of technology, no matter what country you're in. So that is causing a lot of added complexity in the payments industry. The result is, especially for those companies that, again, talking about laggards and innovators, that are laggards in terms of technology investment and kind of like to see kind of take a wait and see approach. Their systems can become increasingly antiquated in managing that complexity. And that is where AI can come in with agents and so forth, start replacing repetitive tasks and so forth. But I like to look at it as more of a more on a grander scale. Sometimes what you have is that the volume of payments processing is also not scaling with employment growth or hiring growth within the company. So what often happens is because maybe payment volume is scaling at a compound rate, kind of like interest rates when you put money in the savings account, the hiring happens linearly. So you keep hiring employees, but you're not really seeing any reduction in the operational drag of that processing. So you really have to factor different things before you hire an employee. Where is there excessive manual interaction in a process? Is there a legacy process that you're working with that is no longer sufficient for this complexity that we're living in? And then once you do that analysis, you can focus on hiring employees. But usually taking the approach of just hiring more people to manage an operation, if it's not well managed and the complexity is not well evaluated, that can cause actually more problems than actually solving for them.
I agree. I just read an article, like let's say that there's employees are spending 10 extra hours on manual processes per week. As it scales, you could be looking at hundreds of hours, right? So it's you want to really address those inefficiencies instead of just hiring more people, because the inefficiencies just compound.
Right, and the introduction of the complexity is kind of like the same of what I said with the processing volume. The complexity can actually scale exponentially, right? So how do you manage those different types of solutions that are coming into the market? Obviously, one choice is to just focus on one particular set of solutions and not take a shotgun approach, but that still has to be managed carefully in terms of how you're interacting with the rest of the solutions that are coming into the market.
Right. And you help your clients kind of navigate that whole process too, right?
So that is really what we focus on. We have an orchestration platform that we've designed that includes automation, includes agentic AI, includes integrating or evaluating rather legacy forms of operating and seeing how they can be upgraded into newer forms of operating, always focusing on the ROI. There's a lot of, obviously, like I said, there's a lot of AI right now in the marketplace, but it's just not, it's not, that you just build an agentic AI solution, you implement it, and that's it. You really have to look at how that's going to impact your whole operation. How are you going to train your employees in that new function? How are you solving for a pain point, but instead of taking care of the root cause, is that pain point moving upstream or downstream? So that is the type of orchestration analysis that we do within the company, and not just providing the technology, but actually analyzing how that technology is going to impact your processing platform and systems.
Excellent. So we kind of talked about the opportunity. What would you say is the greatest challenge for organizations that process payments?
So I think I already mentioned a couple of them, right? How employee growth will often not scale at the same rate of volume growth. I think also because we have a lot more complexity in the payment space, and that complexity keeps increasing. Sometimes capturing outlier events can prove difficult, or predicting where those outlier events are going to come from with the innovation that's coming into the industry. Outlier events can drive ROI down within an operation, and if you have several of them manifesting themselves and you don't manage them, that further drives down ROI. So trying to predict where those outliers will come from, where are going to be the exceptional use cases, where the fraud events might come from. We often think that these fraud organization is just a hacker with nothing else to do, and they're just trying to hack into a system. But I think most of us know that they're pretty well structured organizations, backed by a lot of money, sometimes by governments that are trying to get into the system and steal money. So making sure that your systems are as hack proof as possible against these fraudulent elements is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If only we had a crystal ball, right?
Yes, that's right. These, they get very creative.
So, you have a wealth of knowledge and experience in the industry, and we're trying to distill what you know and provide our audience with some like just valuable information. If you had to provide our audience with one silver bullet piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, I guess the one advice is that there's not, one true silver bullet. I guess. I think, however, to attempt to answer your question, I think a change in philosophy is a good start. So don't look at your processing system as a purely transaction system. Look at it as an operational layer, right? How is that operational platform functioning from within? Are your employees motivated? Are they well trained? Fraud is a collective responsibility. So obviously you want to implement automated systems that catch it, but you also want to train your employees to make sure they know what to look for. What seems off, what process is raising an alarm, that sort of thing. I think defining one or two KPIs for your organization, not 10 or 15, but one or two, is also very critical. And that way your staff can rally or focus on that KPI. One of the strong candidates is least cost routing rates. How much are you squeezing margins out of an average transaction in your firm on a constant basis? Are the margins increasing? If they're not increasing, then your least cost routing strategy is not very efficient. Something's going on that needs to be fixed. The other one obviously is ROI. Always keep your eye on the ROI for the operation itself. Strategically, company-wide, that might be a different story. You're looking at investments and so forth, but the operation itself, always look at the KPI. So that would be the pieces of advice that I have in terms of a silver bullet of sorts.
Okay, well, that makes sense, right? They are in business to make a profit. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
so Joe, if our audience wanted to know how they could maybe get in touch with you or learn more about the services you provide, what information would you like to share?
Well, obviously, we have our website, paytroniks.com. We are very active in LinkedIn as well. I post videos 2 to 3 times a week explaining different trends in the industry in terms of innovation. We talk a little bit about agentic AI, what to watch out for, what trends are we seeing in the industry. So we are a company, again, that focuses a lot on orchestration. We have a framework that is applicable to payments operations to reduce operational drag. That can be a holistic enterprise level approach, or we can start, which is the way that we prefer, by focusing on 2 or 3 manual processes that can be automated. And that way your investment in us could start paying itself off in 1 or 2 quarters. And then we start gradually expanding into other areas of your payments processing. So that's really how people can get in touch with us, and that is what we offer.
Wonderful. Well, Joe, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for your words of wisdom. I'm sure my audience appreciates it as well. And I just want to thank everybody for watching. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Donna, for the opportunity. I've enjoyed this.